So trying to figure out, find a rabbit hole to go down. And I hope it's still recording because the battery was pretty low, so it could have just turned off on me. It'd be really cool that it is recording this. But should I record the drop now? Then just jump back in and then clip it in later. I'll just walk around check. Cool, still recording. That's what's up. So boom. What art job do you think you're interested in? What have you researched or looked up that you want to do in the art field? Because there's so much. And don't let your medium or whatever that you created stop you from getting a job in a slightly different field. I've done some, volunteering and research studies as well with different institutions, working with different mediums, and really just allow myself to explore something, knowing what my base creativity is. What I generally create out of. I can create almost within any medium using my kind of personal principles of design and art. There's also very niche positions that you can get, and depending on what you're interested in. So there's like within photography, you may find yourself working in a camera store, or finding because like you can go to Best Buy and, not to talk down on anything, not at all, but like you can go to any store or that has a photography department and get a job and working kind of somewhat close to that field or working in the technology side of it. Or you can really find a very unique kind of niche store or whatever that fits within that field, because also you have to think about what you can get from your job or position beyond the financial aspect. We need money, don't get it twisted. We definitely got to get paid. That's what we're in this for, to create and get paid for what it is that we create. But what you're getting paid in doesn't always have to equate to money. As artists, we need materials. So if you're working in an art materials store, generally you're going to get discounts that not everybody else can get discounts on. So you got to end there as far as, I'm not saying that I'm not saying what place does that, but that's an opportunity or possibility. And then, and the same thing for any niche store. So if you're working in a photography or a camera store, or working for a photographer, or a photography company, you have access likely to things that most people don't generally have access to, that are in that field but don't work in that space. So me working at a museum, I now have access to the people who make decisions in museums, where I can ask questions about how to move about, talking to curators, directors, and getting supported back. And so what I'm getting paid back, aside from me getting the experience as far as like working at the job and that and this, that, and the third, I'm getting the networking that's paying me in a way, because they may not do anything particularly for me, or we may not work directly with each other or work at all as far as like on a personal project or anything, because I'm working there in one capacity but not there as an artist. But because of the relationships that you can build, your name can pop up in conversations outside of that space, or even in that space, for things outside of that space, right? So it may not be at that museum or at that institution that you're at, but your name could come up for something else. That's getting paid in that network. That's the biggest thing. A lot of my successes, all of my successes really, just have come off of having a great network in which that that just takes, you know, possibilities become endless. Just being corny at this point. Back to art jobs. So again, like this is again a very kind of studio practice. Where can you get art, or can you get a job as an artist? Mostly because I think that, you know, art is looked at almost just like entertainment. And so, you know, I couldn't tell you. Well, because of my experience, I would know how to look for jobs in the same fields or same, you know, kind of in the liberal arts that aren't the expected, you know, jobs that people can get. But so like in music, you know, I can know how to look for jobs for, you know, where someone who's gotten a degree or a master's in music can start to look for jobs that are outside of maybe teaching or working in the music industry. There's so many ways that a musician can probably, you know, find jobs that aren't what is expected to be a recording artist, something like that. And so there's just so many ways you can find work, right? So so if you're a painter, whatever, painter, printmaker, sculptor, ceramicist, there's all kinds of, you know, possibilities like that. I've had some jobs offered, you know, again, like small programs where, you know, and I didn't talk about like grants and things like that, because that's just ways to bring in money in. So it's like, this is really a conversation about income, right? But I've had some job offers in spaces that that, you know, just didn't work out. But because I had the opportunity to, you know, get, you know, my name in that hat or whatever, I now know that those type of things exist, so I can start to look for them. And this is particularly good for good information for people who are kind of just jumping into some spaces, or maybe just jumping into the art field. You know, maybe just, you know, or, you know, rekindling their art career, or people looking to make a physical kind of location change and wanting to figure out how to maneuver about a new space. You just got to start to find when you figure it out, you know, somewhat in the place that you're in, how to maneuver. You're just looking for those cues to pop up again, so that you know, oh, this is an opportunity to make money. This is an opportunity to get a job. You know, like I did a project again at the Hermitage. Because of my connection there, I've gotten quite a few jobs at that institution. But you know, because of my presence in the area, got a job or worked on a project through the Virginia Stage Company and Hermitage Museum, and then that turned into, you know, they needed a graphic designer to do some signage, and I was just like, well, yeah, I know how to do that stuff. So that turned into a job where I got an extra check for doing that, and then because of my skill set in that regard, was pulled in to do another job for another project. And so, is this just talking about networking? You know, this is what this show is all about. Start with a topic, end up where you end up. That's what the rabbit hole is all about. But you want to try. You just want to try some things, and you want to really explore. Really go look up art jobs on a job listing website. Sounds crazy, sounds ridiculous, but it'll just start to open your mind to, you know, what's out there. Because again, like I said, I never thought of art handling as a position or a job, right? Again, and working as an art handler, like within that field, like maybe you're just really handy and like to build things. Ooh, boy. And so, you know, there's people who create boxes and crates to ship large-scale artworks, or just to ship artwork in general. And so you got people that, you know, you get people who transport the artwork. So they drive in the big 16-wheelers and, you know, taking them from coast to coast, or wherever up and down the East Coast or wherever they're going. So you got people who work in the art field in that regard, which their job isn't actually creating artwork, but it's within the field. And I think that the biggest thing about that is, that I'm trying to say even about that, about working in art jobs or working in the art field, is it gives you access and inspiration within your field. So I worked in construction for 5 years in between undergrad and grad school, and there wasn't enough in construction to inspire me to create. And because I have my own kind of like, there's a word I want to use. I'll go with pool, even though I'm not thinking that. But I just have a pool of creativity, creative energy that I just have to get out. Because of that, I was able to, take what I was learning in the construction. I was working in concrete, and get inspiration. I built a concrete sculpture on my own that I ended up having to break, and never went back to. I still got the plans for it though, so I could always do it again. But it wasn't enough to inspire me to do what it was that I was, to do what I was doing in the field. Again, at this time I wasn't going to museums and just checking them out. Like, I'm from Richmond, and I probably didn't know about the Richmond, Virginia Museum of Fine Arts until I was an adult. Sad. But it just depends on your interests, but it's necessary to go out there and find those things out. So especially if you're an artist, you need to be, if you're a creative artist, you need to be showing up to museums, because usually what you think might be there, it's 10 times more. It's not just a painting on the wall, obviously. I'm sure most of the people watching this video are people who go to museums anyway. You better be. But, there's all kinds of shows that exist. Like, we had it, there was at some point essentially a car show at the, in the past. I wasn't there for that. But there was a car show essentially at the museum that I'm working at now, the Chrysler Museum. There's usually some way you can access your field of art at a museum, right? So it might be, even as graphic designers at museums, there's so much graphic design that exists at a museum. Like, so there's work there, so really just finding, the institutions. There's also programs like residencies you can do, again, getting grants and applying for those. And some people just make a job out of that, like creating their artwork and getting money from applying for grants. And it's really just a hustle, again, because the application processes and all of those, I talked about that in my application, applying to show exhibitions video. But there's just so much that you can do, and you really just have to open your mind and start to really pay attention to how these places operate. You'll become present in those places, and you'll find a way to become present in those places, and then find out how they work, so that you can maneuver your way into what it is that you want to do as far as having an art career. And I feel like that just ended really nicely, so I'll just stop there. And I want to thank you for coming by for this episode. But be sure to subscribe and be notified. Again, I am your host, Agent MBEY, and until next time. And then until next time.